will be my 7th year at university, and for all the years that I have been at university, I've cooked almost all of my meals myself. And that's because I believe that meal prepping or cooking your own meals should be fast, it should be easy, healthy, and also the time that you spend in the kitchen should be able to feed you for many days going forward. And that's why I cook in bulk. It's one of the main themes of my cooking, and it's something that I always do. So what we're going to be cooking today is salmon with a side of quinoa and vegetables. I'm going to show you guys the secret sauce that I use on my salmon, a couple extra garnishings and things like that. And then I'm also going to make a salad on the side to make sure that we get in as many vegetables as possible. Now, one of the most important principles for me when it comes to cooking is efficiency. The faster I can cook and get my meals ready, then the more time I have to do other things in my day. So it's very important for me to do everything in the right order and also to maximize the amount of dead time. Usually the longest part of any meal prep is cutting up and preparing the vegetables, so that's what we're going to do first. Now usually the vegetables have a little bit of prep to do. You need to cut them into smaller pieces or cut off the stalks and things like that. But the ones that I've bought today are already ready, so I can skip that step. Now for broccoli and asparagus specifically, you want to cook them slowly over time because they tend to be quite a hard vegetable, and so it's better to cook them slowly rather than fry them really quickly. Usually I use olive oil to cook just about everything in the house, but recently I've discovered that if I cook the asparagus or broccoli with butter, it actually tastes so much better. Now as far as oil or butter in order to fry your vegetables, you guys can add as much as you want. Obviously the more you add, the less healthy your dish is going to become, but it's up to you and you guys can find a personal balance that you enjoy. So I'm going to turn on the heat to something fairly low, like a 4 or 5 out of 10, so I can slowly cook these guys over time. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to start preparing the salmon. Because I've started to cook the vegetables and now I'm going to prepare the salmon, I know that I'm going to need to put the salmon in the oven fairly soon, so I'm going to start heating it up as well. So the oven settings that I use is I just turn this dial here to the one with a fan. Basically, I just want the heat to come from everywhere, not only from the top or the bottom. And then I turn the temperature to 180 degrees, and that's usually good enough. All right, so as you can see, the butter has started to melt now. I can move that around evenly along the base of this big pan. And basically, I just want to lay everything down to hopefully get as much surface area with the pan as possible. Obviously, you can't do that if you're cooking as many vegetables as I am, but that's okay. I'll rotate them and flip them as we go along. Now because not all the vegetables are touching the bottom of the pan, I'm going to add a little more butter over the top that I'm eventually going to mix in once it heats up, and that way I can hopefully evenly get everything to cook. Alright, now let me show you guys how it is that I cook the salmon. So like I said before, the salmon is going to get cooked in the oven, and the way that we do that is we build these little boats out of aluminium foil to put the salmon in, and then we can drizzle on all the sauce that we want. So I'm going to try to make the boats big enough to fit 2 pieces of salmon at a time. Now Alexia is actually the one who taught me how to do this. Don't ask me what the method is. She makes them much better than me, but I'm just going to do my very best. So like I said, Alexia makes these so much better than me, but the idea is that you want to have this little enclosure that you can add the salmon and the sauce on, and then you can close it so that the salmon can cook nice and evenly inside. Alright, so we've got our 2 boats now, and I think it's time to make the sauce. So how I make the sauce that I add onto the salmon is the following. First of all, you're going to need a lot of soy sauce. And by a lot, I mean a lot. This sauce is also what you can drizzle on at the end over your quinoa or your rice, vegetables. It's what brings the whole dish together. Alright, now after you've added the soy sauce, the secret ingredient is honey. Honey just absolutely makes this dish taste so good. Gives it that little sweet taste that you want as well. So drizzle in a bunch of honey in there. And then last but not least, sesame seeds. This is also just one of those small touches that makes the dish taste so much better. I highly recommend you guys try it out if you haven't before. I'm personally a big fan of sesame seeds, so I'm gonna add a bunch, but you guys can add as much as you want. Starting to cook along, like I said, nice and slowly, not doing it too fast, letting all those really tough, strong fibers break down slowly. Alright, so that beeping was the oven, which means the oven is ready, which is good because we're almost ready with the salmon. Alright, so now you want to take this sauce, mix it really well. Basically, you want to get that honey. It won't really fully dissolve, but you want to get it mixed in with the soy sauce as much as possible. Ah, so good. Alright, so now let's bring out that tray that we had with the 2 boats. Let's cut open this salmon box real quick. And now because we touched raw meat with that knife, we need to get rid of it. We need to put it in the sink, alright? And we don't want to use these tongs to touch the salmon because they've touched raw meat, so we need another set of tongs. I'm going to do 2 salmons per little boat. To It's important to keep moving the asparagus and the broccoli around just to make sure that it doesn't like get burned or stuck to the bottom of the pan. And you want the ones that were previously at the top to get down to the bottom so everything's evenly cooked. They're getting cooked quite nicely. The butter is really helping them get this glistening shine that you see here. All right, so back to the salmon. It's time to finally drizzle on that sauce. Now I like to make sure that I get the sauce actually on the salmon meat, not only on the skin or on the bottom. So once I make sure I've gotten enough sauce on top of the actual salmon, I'll just take the rest of the sauce and split it between the two boats. Now because we're cooking in these boats, because it's closed, all that evaporation is gonna help steam it, and it's gonna taste a lot better than if we were just frying it. And of course it's healthier because you're not using oils and things like that. All right, so now let's close these boats, give them a good seal, well, as best as we can anyway. So since we know the oven is ready to go, we can just throw them straight in. Really depends how much you need to cook it, how long it's gonna cook for. I tend to do something between 12 and 20 minutes. So I'll start at like 16 minutes and then check on them. And then I'll check one of them, see if it's cooked all the way through to how I like it. And then if it still needs some more, I can just throw it back in. So I'm gonna set a quick timer for 16 minutes. And while the salmon's cooking away in the oven, I wanna give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Make 2020 the year where you explore new skills, deepen your passions, and increase your creativity using Skillshare's online classes. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes covering pretty much any topic, so you can learn anything that you want. They've got short classes which fit around your busy routine, which is really important for me because, as you know, I try and do a lot of things in a single day. They offer classes designed for real life, so you can learn about cooking like we were today, or how to take amazing Instagram photos, how to increase your creativity, just anything that you can think of. A class that I'm currently taking is called Social Media for the Creative Entrepreneur, and it's teaching me how to increase engagement across my social platforms and figure out this sort of YouTube creator, social media influencer position that I found myself in. If you're interested in Skillshare and want to explore your creativity, you can click the links in the description down below and get 2 months of the premium membership for free. All right, now back to the cooking. Now in the meantime, if you're cooking rice or quinoa like I am today, that's gonna take about 20 minutes, so we should get started on that. Now quinoa or rice is probably the easiest thing in the world to make. You literally just throw it all into a pot, and then you cover the quinoa or rice with water until the water covers the quinoa with about this much of your finger. It's something like 2 centimeters, yeah, 1.5 to 2 centimeters. Then you put it on the stove and set it to the highest temperature your stove will go until the water boils, and then you turn it down to about a 4 or a 5, cover it, and wait 20 minutes and it's done. All right, so hopefully you guys can see over there, I've got the quinoa cooking. It's gonna take about 20 minutes to be fully ready. And then the vegetables over here, they're basically ready, but I'm just gonna leave them on a low heat to stay warm until everything else is finished. While we're waiting for all of that, we can just make a quick salad. And I try and keep my salads as simple as possible. I just put some sort of leaf like rocket or spinach, and then add a couple of tomatoes, olive oil, balsamic vinegar, and it's good to go. And yeah, there you go. There's a salad that took about 1.5 minutes to make. It increases the amount of vegetables that you eat in your day, keeps you healthy, and it's just a good thing to add to your daily meals if you can. Let's check on the salmon. All right, let's see what we've got over here. I'm gonna open the bigger one, the fatter one, and if that's cooked, then the smaller one is cooked too. All right, perfect. All right, so I guess I can start with the vegetables. They're all pretty much done now. Put those on the side. Now that the quinoa's done, we can just plate that up as well. And then last but not least, I'm gonna bring on the salmon. Haven't managed to get it in one big piece, but that's all right. And then the last thing that I do is just drizzle on some of this sauce, give it some more flavor. I like to put it on wherever I can. All right, and that is it. That's the whole plate done. I'm pretty excited to eat it. Now, usually I would have my friend or my sister taste the food so that you guys could get a second opinion to know if my cooking is actually good or not. But unfortunately, nobody is home today. So I'm gonna have to taste it all by myself and give you guys as much of an unbiased opinion as I possibly can. I'll do my very best. So that's the final dish. We've got the salmon, the quinoa, the asparagus, and the broccoli. And then we've just got a small salad on the side. We're gonna put something on Netflix, sit down and eat this meal, and then I'll let you guys know my official, unbiased verdict. All right, guys, let me tell you for real. All right, the salmon, the soy sauce, the honey, the sesame seeds, honestly, very, very, very good. This is one of my favorite dishes that I make. Then the broccoli and the asparagus, I wish I'd cooked it at a slightly higher temperature, so going back I would probably cook it at about a 6, just so it gets a little bit more tender, but being cooked in the butter made it taste really good as well. Of course you can use olive oil if that's what you prefer. And then the quinoa, pretty standard. I like to use tricolor quinoa because I think it adds a little bit more flavor and texture to the dish, but you can use rice or any other quinoa that you want. Then when I drizzled the sauce on top of everything, I think that's what tied it all together. Personally, I really like the dish. I wish I had one of you guys try it, honestly, just so that you guys could give an unbiased rating. My recommendation is that you try out this dish, try it with the sauce on the salmon, and I think you'll really like it. Anyways, I think that is it for me for this video.
Yeah, with all that being said, let's get into the video. This is what I eat in a week, and I hope you enjoy. For breakfast this morning, I very simply had a couple of pieces of gluten-free toast, and then on that I also had some vegan butter as well as Vegemite and some leftover guacamole from the night before that I used for dinner. So yeah, I just had that on toast for breakfast. In the mid-morning I got a little bit peckish, so I decided to snack on these chocolate Bliss balls, which are really delicious. I like just having these in the house for if I feel like a light snack. After that, I decided to make some homemade gluten-free chocolate peanut butter granola. That was a bit of a mouthful. The recipe for this will be down in the description box below. It's less of a crunchy granola and more sort of like a soil, if that makes sense. If you've ever had like a chocolate soil sort of thing that you sprinkle on top of smoothie bowls and things like that, this is what that is like. So I made a bulk amount, but then I served a little bit of it in a bowl with some fresh fruit as well as some soy milk. And this is what I ended up having for lunch. For dinner, we had some friends over for drinks and board games and dinner. And so I made us some raspberry lime cocktails, which were really delicious. And then with that, we also had dinner. So my friend Sophie, who's an amazing vegan cook, she brought over some salad as well as some creamy vegan pasta bake. And then she also made a really delicious dessert as well, which was like this vegan small slice. It was so good. So on Tuesday morning, I'm once again starting with some toast, but today I'm very simply just having some peanut butter on toast, and then I'm also having some orange with it. I got these really amazing oranges at the local farmers market, and yeah, they're so good. I'm obsessed with them. So this is a very simple but very delicious breakfast that I had on Tuesday. Then from there, I decided to make this really nice warm sun-dried tomato kale quinoa salad that I've been loving. So in a pan, I started with spring onion and garlic and kale. Then I also added in some cooked quinoa as well as sun-dried tomatoes. This is really delicious and really flavorful, and I just toss it around until the kale gets nice and soft and the sun-dried tomatoes start to cook. And then I also topped this with some leftover crispy chickpeas that I still had in the fridge. And then I used this really delicious burger sauce that Cara had in the fridge, which recently got released at Coles, and it's really delicious. So I had that on top. In the afternoon, I was in the mood for a snack plate, as you can probably tell. So I had some of my favorite smoky barbecue crackers with some garlic hummus, as well as more of those delicious oranges, and then some biscuits. These are the biscuits that I have. If you're wondering, they're vegan and gluten-free. You can get them from Woolworths here in Australia. Obsessed. So yeah, I have this snack plate. I'm really in the mood for a snack plate watching this actually, so I might have to do this today. But yeah, that got me through until dinner. I started preparing dinner early because I was making a pumpkin soup. So I roasted a whole pumpkin just with a little bit of olive oil until it was really nice and caramelized. And then in the blender, I just blended it with some herbs and spices and coconut cream, and I will put the recipe down in the description box below. Alrighty, so So Wednesday morning, I was going for a long walk, but I was feeling hungry before I head out. So I decided to just make my usual PB cacao smoothie. I haven't been having this that much lately because it's winter here in Australia and it's just been a little bit too cold to have smoothies. But today I was really feeling it and I was just feeling like something small and easy. So that's what I had for breakfast. And then once I got home from my walk, I was still in the mood for cacao. Apparently, I made myself a hot cacao and this took me over until lunchtime. For lunch, I again was just having a bit of a leftovers moment, and so I just started by first of all cooking up some chickpea pasta, which is of course gluten-free, and then in a pan I fried some cherry tomatoes. I had some leftover pumpkin soup from the night before, so I just used this as the pasta sauce, and honestly it was so delicious. I think I'm gonna do this like all the time now with leftover soup. And then I served this in a bowl, and then of course I put my cherry tomatoes on top. And as with most things, I topped it with spring onion because I love spring onion on pretty much everything. Next thing you know, I'm gonna be putting spring onion on my hot cacao. Just joking. I won't ever do that, I promise. For an afternoon snack, I had one of these ice creams because they were on special at the supermarket and they were really delicious. And then that evening, I went to my friend Bonnie and Emily's house and they made us a really, really delicious dinner, which was some quinoa, charred corn, greens, chickpea tempeh, and then this amazing, like, I don't even know what this sauce is called, but Bonnie seriously nailed it. It is such an amazing sauce. Okay, so on Thursday I was in the mood for pancakes. I'm still new to the gluten-free pancake game, but I think I did a pretty good job with these. I made 6 pancakes in total, some for me and some for Cara, my housemate and my best friend. And then I also did some of them with chocolate chips, and I had a little bit of a moment. This pancake is so big. It's like, I tried to make it the same size as the other ones and it's
and you just failed.
I just so failed. Anyway, so I ended up also having 1 choc chip pancake, which was huge, with some coconut yogurt and strawberries. And then I had 2 of the just regular pancakes with lemon and maple syrup on top, and this was a really delicious way to start the day. For lunch, I was feeling like a herby avo smash, which I have been really loving at the moment. It will be down in the description box below, the recipe for this. It's so good. I recommend you try it. It just adds some freshness to a usual avo toast, and I also put some tahini drizzle on top. I've been loving tahini so much lately, and then of course I topped it with spring onions because that's what I do. But yeah, this is really, really, really delicious. And then for dinner this night, I went to a local restaurant called Greenhouse, which you might have heard of. It is a fully vegan and gluten-free restaurant here on the Gold Coast. I started with a house-made lemonade, and then I also had these buffalo cauliflower wings, which are one of my favorite things on the menu. This came with some vegan ranch as well, which again is so delicious. And then as well as that, I also had a vegan cauliflower mac and cheese, which was topped with crispy kale as well as rice paper bacon. So good. On Friday morning, I started by making some rice paper bacon, and then I also roasted some tomatoes to make a vegan big brekkie. I had a couple of pieces of toast with some avocado on top, and then I drizzled some leftover tahini drizzle from the day before. Like I said, loving tahini. I served it with some of my rice paper bacon. I love how Eva is in the background watching me make my breakfast. And then I also had my roasted tomatoes as well as some spring onion on top, as well as some sesame seeds. And this was my very delicious breakfast, probably my favorite breakfast of the whole week, to be honest. For lunch, I decided to once again make some pasta. I'm using this chickpea pasta again. And today was a bit of a leftovers kind of lunch day, just using up whatever I had left. So I charred some corn, added in the rest of my kale and cherry tomatoes that I had left over, and I fried this up until it was nice and crispy. Then I added in my chickpea pasta as well as some passata, and then yeah, I mixed this together, and this was a very, very simple lunch. And I really enjoy this, just like getting whatever I have left in the fridge or the pantry and putting it into a bowl. And yeah, I find this a really good way to use up the last of the ingredients that I have left. This night we went for dinner to my friend Bray's house, and she's once again an amazing cook, and she made us some homemade vegan ramen, and oh my goodness, it was so delicious. I want to work on my own recipe for ramen, but yeah, this was such an amazing way to end a Friday. Thank you so much, Bray, for such a delicious dinner. So on Saturday morning, I started very simply again with a couple of pieces of toast with Vegemite as well as avocado on top, and then I also had a little bit of pink salt. Very simple breakfast as per usual. Then I also decided to make some vegan and gluten-free double chocolate cookies. These were so delicious. The recipe, once again, is in the description box below if you want to try it. These are probably the best gluten-free cookies I have ever made. I love them so much, and so did Cara. So yeah, these were really delicious. And then from there, I decided to make a cauliflower and butter bean curry. Been really loving making curries at the moment since I sort of branched out and challenged myself with my cooking. So yeah, I decided to make one of these for lunch. I also added in some spinach to get the greens in. I really like adding spinach into my curries. And then I served this with some rice as well as coconut yogurt and spring onions. For dinner, I decided to make myself a black bean chili. So I just started with some spring onions, garlic, chili, and oil, and then added in some tomato and black beans. Again, the recipe is in the description box below for you. I served this with some rice, and then very weirdly, on top of this, I put some more tahini drizzle. Like I said, the tahini obsession is like very present right now. And then I also topped this with some coriander, and it was really delicious. On Sunday morning, I didn't have a whole heap of groceries left, so I just had some of my chocolate soil granola, and then I put it with some coconut yogurt, and then of course also served it with some soy milk. Very simple and delicious way to start the day. From there, I decided that I was really in the mood for nachos. As you guys would probably know, nachos are one of my favorite meals in the world. So I started with some corn chips as well as some salsa that I just bought from the grocery store. Then I topped this with some smoky black beans as well as charred corn. On top of this, I then put a creamy cashew cheese that I made, as well as then piling on more corn chips, more beans, more corn, and more cashew cheese sauce. Then I topped this with a whole bunch of guacamole. By the way, Cara and I shared this, just so you know. And then I also topped it with spring onions, and the recipe for this also is in the description box below for you. I love nachos so much, just call me the nacho queen. Okay, so for dinner, I just decided to make like a creamy sun-dried tomato pasta. So the pasta sauce was a base of cashews with a whole heap of sun-dried tomatoes. Again, recipe is down below for you. I cooked some gluten-free pasta, and then I also cooked some crispy kale. And then, yeah, this very simply served myself and Cara, my housemate, with some pasta, creamy sauce, and kale, which was a very beautiful way to end a very delicious week of vegan food.